the street, eeriness and the silence really start to get to you. As you finally sort of make your way, you see that the street goes that way, and you start going this way. Give me just a second, I need to check something.
Why are you doing that? Was that a deliberate Game of Thrones reference back there with winter is coming?
No, that was not deliberate. It's just a simple truth. The city does have winter on its way.
Just the way you said it, winter is coming. That's why I went off, for fuck's sake.
Well, it wasn't intentional. My apologies. I haven't thought about Game of Thrones in a long time. Anyways,
Good show, though.
Anyways, as you're sort of coming to this intersection here, transition to this.
Oh, I see a dead body. It looks oddly like Han Solo.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
goodness.
As you're sort of walking up the street, I need to delete Cogma because he's not here. As you're sort of, walking up the street, following the dude along. Let's see. As you're sort of following him along, yep, on the right there, sort of slumped against a fountain, you do indeed see a body. Looks like, well, do you want to examine him?
Can I do an awareness check of the area? Because of
roll-
ambushes.
Yeah. Well, also it's worth noting. Yeah, and also it's worth noting that Tom isn't actually paying that body much heed. He's turning to go this way.
Wow, still doing an awareness check. Just in case. 11.
All right, 11. Well, that lets you notice that there are a few other people just kind of hanging around. You see person over there slumped against a tree, alive, and another person just kind of standing on his porch, and they both seem to be exhibiting similar symptoms to the man that you found in the tavern, but not quite as severe. Like, they seem to still have their minds, if nothing else.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I continue to follow the dude and keeping an eye on the guy by the tree who were passing.
Alright. What you rolling there for, Alcier?
Darkness?
Sorry, awareness.
Awareness.
Oh, well.
9, you don't see anything that Nee doesn't.
Fair enough.
You guys following on, eating or anything?
So,
Hold on a second, I actually need to apply control properly to these.
Also 9. Yeah, I don't see anything either.
I was thinking about inspecting the body.
Alright.
Well, apparently our awareness is all 9, so yeah, no.
9?! It's better not turn into the fucking mighty 9. I don't want to copy Critical Role. Alright, well, yeah, as you approach the body, the Tom overhead kind of comes to a stop as you're examining the body and turns around to watch you. The body, again, seems to be someone who succumbed to the plague.
Which I was going to say, another victim from the looks of it.
I call back to him.
Died quite recent.
There's nothing we can do for him. Come on.
Yep.
This plague, how long does it take for the victim to succumb?
It varies, Tom says, looking back at you. Sometimes only a matter of days, other times weeks. It depends, really, on the fortitude of the infected. There is one thing I can definitely tell you about this plague. It's not natural. If it were...
How does one usually get infected?
The most common cases seem to be by touch. You do not want the infected to touch you. If they do, you need to clean the area they touched as thoroughly as possible. Throw a few asunas over it just in case.
Well, it's a good thing we're wearing gloves.
Anyways, this infected person over here sort of starts shambling over, looking at Tom Uman, and he's like, "Please, you have to help us." Tom looks over at him with a very deep, sympathetic look on his face. "If only I could. I'm doing everything I can, but my magic will not cure this plague. I have tried." The citizen doesn't seem totally convinced. But you're a master white mage. Surely there's something you can do. Last Tom just kind of slowly shakes his head in denial. I am afraid not. I am so sorry. Let's see here. Man in question, takes a few more steps forward, starting to tremble at the fingers a bit. How do you wish to respond to this? He's starting to look rather, unstable.
I step in and try to negotiate with him.
All right.
Same. I asked him, sir. Sir,
I wish
he's
to
being
help
tru-
him.
Sir, he's being truthful. Can you please step back? Do you know when to risk spreading it to others?
All right, roll a negotiation check, me.
Alright, I'm also just moving my character. It's so just 2d6. Dash roll 2d6. 8.
He looks at you and seems genuinely conflicted. Like, of course not. Of course I don't, but it's been so long. Surely you know something at this point. Surely. Even just to make the pain less. He suddenly doubles over, a hand flying up to his mouth, and you see a small squirt of puke kind of fly past his fingers.
Stepping back.
Yeah, Thanatos, you're like right in front of him. Could you really quickly roll me an athletics check to get out of the way of that?
Jesus Christ.
Always mind where your characters are.
Yep.
That's why I wasn't too close.
Yeah.
I was trying to get between him and the mage,
All right,
just in case he
all right.
tried to.
Well, you succeeded.
Yeah, 11. Yeah. You see the sign just before he lets fly, and you take a few steps back, and you're safe. Either way, once that finishes, he looks up at the lot of you, and Tom lets out a quiet sigh, reaches into his pocket, pulls out a vial with a pinkish liquid, and catch. He tosses it, and the man catches it, just barely in his trembling fingers. It won't cure the plague, but it may lessen the symptoms, if only for a short time. If I were you, I would save it, either until it's unbearable, or for someone else. He gives a short nod of his head, then gestures back ahead, over this way. Come on, the lot of you. We have places to be. The citizen suddenly looks up at that and says, wait, they can go with you, but I can't? They aren't infected. I'm afraid you are. And they might be able to help everyone else. I really quickly need to roll here.
Please don't panic. I will also try my best.
All right. The guy seems very visibly distraught, but he accepts Tom's explanation and slowly shuffles back to his tree where he slumps down and just kind of cradles the vial close to his chest, rocking back and forth and starting to mumble to himself. All right. Well, with that,
Well, let us press forth.
all right. Combat encounter averted. Back to the world map. Or the map, rather. Yeah, there's a definite chance for a combat encounter there, by the way.
Hmm.
Pretty much any time you're dealing with infected people, keep that in mind. So, it kind of comes up here. You cross a long bridge over the river that you earlier noted sort of winds through the city from the north by the looks of it. I'll sort of reveal actions here. Kind of wish there was a button for that. But yeah, it kind of gives you like a full sweeping view of all that back there. And up here, you kind of opens up into this large plaza area. And right here, you see what looks like a barricade with several armed Mithrin guards standing in front of it. And it's like it's barricade made up of like crates and bags filled with sand and even some makeshift brickwork. And yeah, Make your way forwards. One of the guards steps forward, eyeing the lot of you skeptically and then turning his attention to Tom. Tom, who are these people? They are uninfected. You needn't worry. I checked them myself. Yes, maybe they're not infected, but what if they have it on them? We can't take any risks here. Tam just kind of rolls his eyes, turns around and waves his hand again, green light from his hands. The same bubbles from before kind of appear in the air and fly down to your persons and constrict around. I can tell you from experience, the little flashes on the bubbles come from bacteria from the sea, not the plague. They are clean, we can let them through, and they may be able to help Laren. The guards look between each other, a little conflicted, then sigh, nod, and relent. Very well, let them through. They step aside and you pass through into the next square, and it is significantly different from the last one you were in. There are people here. A fair number of them. They're kind of sticking to the outer edges and looking at you from doorways, and there's like a couple gathered around this well right here, but most of them are just kind of keeping to the edges, watching you with curious, anxious, doubtful, hopeful looks, the whole gambit. Some seem as if they think you might just be exactly what they need. Some seem confused by your presence. Yeah. Never mind the stairs, Tam says as he leads you further along. They're just scared, and they have every right to be.
At least the kids will like the look of a robotic chocobo walking by.
Oh yeah, a few kids actually look at Rocket with like absolute fascination. Like, whoa! In fact, one of them actually comes running away from her mother, who's like, "Just get back here!" Little kid, little Mithra kid, so a cattail flicking out of his backside and ears ruffling, so kind of runs up. He's dressed in really dirty clothes, very bland colors. He's got short red hair, but his ears are really fluffy. Big green eyes, comes running right up to Rocket and looks up at her with wide eyes and sort of a hanging jaw, like, whoa.
Hi.
You can talk?
Of course I can talk.
Mom comes running back out at this point, sort of picks the kid up. You know you're not supposed to talk to strangers. But it's a chocobo. I know it's a chocobo, but it's got metal sticking out of it. I know, right? That's so cool. The lady, Mithran lady looks at Tom and says, I'm so sorry for him. No, it's fine. I say let the child take whatever joy he can.
It's really no trouble.
The woman kind of looks at you in surprise, obviously having not expected the chocobo to talk, but if you say so. Come on. And she ushers her child back towards their home. The small display of childish innocence makes a few other people their moods brighten a little bit. Tom seems satisfied with this before he leads you a bit further in. As you reach here, I'm just going to go ahead and start moving the group along. If you want to stop me at any point to interact either with each other or with Tam, let me know.
Well, I was going to say something to Dom.
All right. What would that be?
I'm just wondering, do you have, a medic base set up or nothing? I wish to maybe help these people out as best I can, if it's possible.
There are a few apothecaries scattered around in the 2 squares which we just passed through. Tam explains as you're passing by a 4-way intersection. If you so wish, you can lend your aid there, but for now my priority is getting you to Lord Laren Kane. He will have further, more specific instructions for you.
How far is it to him?
Not much farther. You kind of keep going along the way. Kind of tedious because I'm having to reveal areas of the city as you're finding them, and the buttons are not very intuitive for that.
How many inhabitants were here before the plague hit?
Population was relatively small as far as port cities go. I don't have a precise number, I'm afraid. It has substantially dropped since the plague hit, though.
I take it the infected outnumber clean.
Not quite. We were able to block off the infected regions well enough. Well over half the city remains uninfected, but it's a struggle every day to keep out the infected, keep ourselves safe. Finally,
How many soldiers do you have here?
not enough. I know that for sure. You pass through a pair of portcullises and into a large open courtyard. It's the ground here is pretty grassy as compared to the combination of dirty grass and mud and cobblestone that made up the rest of the region. It actually looks really nice here in front of the Marasu Palace. You see there are several guards sort of going through training drills not far off, sort of back here-ish. And there are several sort of on patrol routes and 2 standing in front of the main gates, which I'll have to draw on as like a little dot or something. I'll say that the entrance into the castle is right there. That's the entrance. And Tamuman leads you up to the doors. The 2 soldiers sort of, stiffen up a bit and step aside as he approaches, recognizing the court white mage. And Tamuman leads you inside the palace. The interior of the palace is quite nice, all things considered. It's not the finest things you've ever seen. Like, for example, Neothil, it's nothing compared to the grand and artistic architecture of Vitae back in old Vitae and the castle in which you used to work and train. But as far as Mithrin standards go, it's pretty good as far as palaces go. The architectural style, I suppose I should have mentioned, of the city is... The Mithra have a very haphazard kind of lifestyle a lot of the time. I'm sure if you read the lore documents, you'd know. But for the sake of the audience who will probably be listening to this, in this setting, the Mithra have an almost anarchistic governmental structure. It's not quite an anarchy, as there are rules in place, but sometimes a leader of the nation can come and go in the course of a few weeks. The rules in place for this generally are in line with, if someone thinks they can do better at a certain area that this nation needs doing better at right then and there, they can challenge the current leader to a challenge to prove their superiority in that field. And if they succeed, well, then they become the new leader of Mikatai, and the old guy steps down. It's not quite the same for Isle Masters, the people who rule individual islands. Those are more like a monarchy setup where you pass it on to father and child, but there's still room for challengers, but it's not quite as accepted on that level. And all around for the rest of it, the Mithra have a very free-form and loose society, and it's reflected in their architecture. In fact, a lot of the homes you passed, their second stories were open wall. So they were Mithra just looking down on you, just kind of lounging about on poles, watching you pass through the streets. They're a very laid-back and relaxed society most of the time. Kind of coming from their nature being cat-like. Kind of ironic that they're cat people, but they live on islands. Surrounded by water. That's why they're the best sailors in the world. Anyways. So, back into the game. Tam leads you through the halls a little ways, just heading deeper into the building. And there are more guards on patrol. There are also some citizens sort of sitting around looking like they're waiting for something. Tam clarifies, volunteers wishing to help however they can. We don't have a job for everyone always, so they wait until we have something for them to do. Stepping through a pair of double doors, you enter into a large, but modest throne room of sorts. It's more like a fanciful office without a desk. And sort of stepping forward a little ways, you see that there's been a table set up in the middle of the room with a map of the city on it. And standing around this table, you see a young adult Mithra with dark brown hair and blue eyes and upper-class clothing, looking down at the map with his face screwed up in frustration. And next to him is a female Mithra with a kind of a black hair that almost looks bluish and bright pink eyes, let's say. And she's dressed in similar white robes to Tam, if a little bit less robust. And they're kind of looking at the map. The female Mithra looks up and her face lights up with a glorious smile, and she comes rushing forward. Master Uman, And she throws her arms around Tam in a big freaking hug, and he laughs. Mika, I'm returned.
I see that. Are you all right?
I'm as well as I can be.
Did your search yield any results?
Not what I was looking for, but... He gestures back to the lot of you with a hand. It may yet be helpful all the same.
Oh.
She looks back at you and then back to Tam.
Situation's unchanged?
If anything, it's worse. The infection is still spreading among the population down there. He lets out a sigh and then looks up at the other Mithra, who's still looking at the map, looking lost in thought. Lord Kane. Finally, this gets his attention. The Mithra looks up. Ah, Tam! Wondering what the door opening was. Go back. Yes. What did you find? Sadly, not as much as I had hoped. Again, he gestures to you lot. But I did find some potentially useful allies. He nods at you as if gesturing for you all to sort of step forward and introduce yourselves.
Neothil, ranger from Old Vatea.
The rest of you gonna introduce yourselves?
I'm Rocket. Rocket's the chocobo.
Mika's face lights. I was like, oh my god, a talking chocobo! And she immediately starts fawning over you.
Of course I can talk. I am a cyborg after all.
I can see that. Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. I have so many questions.
Tam kind of nudges her in the foot. Focus, Mika.
Right. Sorry.
Don't worry, kid. We all have
Well.
questions.
Right.
Well, at least you are bringing complete joy to everyone, Rocket.
Well, at least our group has a mascot.
Mm. Mm.
It appears.
And I'm a Messiah. I'm from the Glorian domain.
Galrion. It's pronounced
Pleasure to
Galrion.
meet you, Garion. Sorry. Garion domain. Pleasure to meet you.
Call me
Oh.
Thanatos.
We were on a ship that was heading into the city. Our captain was one of the infected that was trying to spread the plague. He drove us straight into your campfire. We washed up on shore.
We kind of cut out there for a second at the end, Tom.
I basically just said, explained to him how we got here, how the infected were driving the ship.
Ah, all right. All right. The man nods and then gives a deep, polite bow. Well, allow me, as Isle Master of this city and island, to welcome you to Marasu. My name is Laren Kane. I apologize for the circumstances of your arrival, but there's little we can do about it. I had hoped word would spread about our situation, but it doesn't seem so yet.
I had no idea the city was in such disarray. I was intending to use it as transit to get further out.
Well, sadly, you're going to be stuck here for the time being. Laren kind of walks back around towards the map. Tam says you might be able to be of help. In what way?
Well, I have been studying diseases and plagues, so maybe I could lend my services to you to hopefully find an answer to this madness.
Any help we can get would be much appreciated. Your garb suggests to me that you are a paladin?
Indeed.
Where were you trained, out of curiosity?
Well, I learn a bit from my parents, but I mostly train in an academy.
The Academy City? Animo?
Yes.
Mika suddenly turns her attention to you, Alcier, and is like,
You trained at the Academy City?
Tam gets a sort of a flat look on his face.
Yeah.
What was it like?
Well, more than I could ever wanted. I mean, I learned much. I made some really good friends. And, well, beyond anything I could ever imagine, to be honest.
Her face continues to light up.
You're gonna have to tell me all about it sometime.
Indeed. But first, we must help everyone here. And once my job is done, I promise I'll sit down and tell you more about it.
We also hear you're low on soldiers. The rest of us can fight.
I can tell by your garb, you're quite well equipped for travelers.
I'm on leave from the Rangers in Novatea. I was part of an elite unit.
Ooh, good training then. We could definitely use some of that. A lot of our soldiers now are just volunteer recruits. Barely know how to handle a sword. Laren runs a hand over his face in clear exasperation and frustration. He looks like he's really not prepared for this kind of situation. Alright, well. It occurs to me that you've all had a bit of a trying arrival, so why don't you take the day, get yourselves familiar with the uninfected parts of the city, rest up a bit, try to learn what you can, and tomorrow I'll see if I have something for you.
Before that, Tam, can I talk to
Very
you in
well.
private?
Of course. Tam gives a small nod and then turns back to Mika. I'll speak with you as soon as I'm done with her. Mika nods.
Alright, so
Alright.
yeah, I intend for here to go off with Tam out of earshot of all the others.
Alright. So, what is this about?
I came to this city and going beyond, searching for something. If I'm going to be helping you, I won't be able to continue that search. So I would ask you, as a white mage, which I hadn't actually expected to encounter in this city, if you have any information on what I seek, and if you ever might be able to get information on it.
I suppose it depends on what it is you're after. Speak your mind, I will listen.
Well, it will be in confidence.
Doctor-patient confidentiality. He gives you a wink.
Very well. I am looking for someone or something. I've been having visions, see. It started out as dreams. A figure, black, dark, sinister, yet oddly comforting in a way. Set against a backdrop of golden stars. I don't know much more than that, but it's what I search for.
It doesn't sound familiar, I'm afraid. That would sound something more along the
know.
lines of what a blue mage would want to know. Someone who
A blue mage.
Yes. And sadly, you will find none in this city, at least none with the sort of experience to know of that, I can assure you. Your best bet, then, would be to help us clean up this situation with the plague, and once that is resolved, maybe I can speed along your passage to Animo if that's where you're headed. That would be the best place to seek answers for such a thing.
Very well, I will focus my efforts on the plague. Just, if you ever hear anything.
If I hear anything, he waves his hand for a second, a brief breeze sort of picks up around you, and in your ear you hear the words, "I will tell you." But Tom doesn't move his mouth or speak in any way aside from that.
I give him a simple nod and thanks, then begin to return to the others.
Alright. So, while that was happening, Laren took the liberty of providing the group with a map of the city, which I will now go ahead and get rid of the fog of war so you can all see the map in its entirety.
Ooh. Fancy.
Yep.
Looks like we got our work cut out.
Yep. And he also takes the liberty of outlining the areas that are infected on the map with a red outline. Do you see the red outline?
Yeah.
I have a red outline on my screen.
No. I wanted to know, is there an outline of the infected zone?
Yeah, well then give me a second and I will go ahead and draw in said outline in a format you all can see.
Sure thing.
I'm curious to see who Hades' character is searching for. Like, I know it's your master, but what the story behind him is. Way left.
You'll find out as Thanatos
Mm.
deems fit to reveal it. Alright, y'all see,
Whoa.
alright,
I'm
y'all see
curious.
the red line then?
Yep.
Well, everything inside that is infected.
Wow.
Alright. So that's the dead zone.
That is the dead zone, as it were, yes.
That's a little less than half the city.
Yep. I'll go ahead and move that to the map layer. So, yeah. Y'all pretty much have the rest of the day to yourselves. Laren excuses you, and Tom goes to speak with Mika. Sort of ushered back onto the front of the palace. What do you wish to do? Yeah, pretty much the rest of the day, and I suppose I should say, in terms of, like, in-world time, it's, middle of the afternoon, and it'll be sunset in about 4 in-game hours.
Since we have about 40 minutes until midnight, would this be like a long thing of the session? Like end on the end of the day?
Yeah, pretty much. We'll be ending
Alright.
with the end of the day, so long as nothing horrifying happens.
Hmm.
Well,
Well, I'll
that
probably
sounds
be
ominous.
looking around and also asking questions.
Alright, what kinds of
The thing is,
questions?
where do we want to go to do that?
Well, you notice that the most people you saw all at once was in the 2 squares, and Laren, especially that, like most people are keeping to their homes, but if there are people not in their homes, they'll probably be in taverns or apothecary clinics, and most of those are in kind of the squares that you kind of see scattered around. So like notably the 2 squares is like the best place to go for that. Of course, you only have access to one of the squares.
Got it. And
I
is
said-
it alright for me to draw which one I was going to?
You can press and hold on a spot, and you can ping it if you wish. Which one you're going to?
I was probably thinking of going to this one. Seems a little bit bigger, and I might find some answers there.
All right.
I suggest, if we're going to that square, I suggest finding a slightly less dead tavern.
It's
True.
worth noting you're going into the not infected region, so
It's still
That's-
not infected.
That's what I'm talking about. Like if we go to the non-infected region, find a slightly less, like, ridden tavern.
Yeah.
Where we can, 1, find information, 2, actually have a proper drink that's more than just old rotten
How
scotch.
about there?
which one? Ping it again? I didn't see it. Yeah, if you wish.
Or here? Well, there's a lot of buildings from the looks of it.
Yeah, but they're also tiny.
So what are we doing? Going to this place, finding tavern, heading inside, or
I
Mhm.
believe Darkness said he was going to ask around,
Which I will catch up with
Alright.
the rest of you.
catch up with us in the square.
So you two coming with me?
I suppose. Don't really have
Rocket?
Perhaps. Although I am interested in seeing the hanging homes and how they hang.
Love that.
Well, you do that, Rocket.
All right, so
Partos, let's go.
Very well then.
all
Try
right.
not to cause any trouble, Rocket.
Honestly, I think by the time we see her again, she's gonna have a fan club.
All right, well, we'll just kind of go through this in order. Thanatos and Nee, where are you two going?
We're heading to the busiest tavern we can find.
All right, well,
Get a proper drink.
asking around a little
I
bit.
never mentioned.
Yep, asking around a little bit. The busiest tavern you can find would be it would be the Whiskers Corner, and it would be this huge building right here. It's a tavern and inn designed to house a lot of people.
This one.
Yes. I'll go ahead and type its name over it so you all can see it. There we go.
Whiskers Corner. So we head inside there then.
Alright. Heading inside, it is quite filled with plenty of people, actually. It's not like full-blown, like, enormous assembly of people, but there's plenty. Oh shit, I don't have a tavern music playlist. What the hell was I thinking? Alright, yeah,
Were you thinking?
I'm just saying you don't have tavern music?
I wasn't expecting
For
guys to go for a
shame.
tavern in the first session, alright?
Crazy.
That's how these sessions always start. It's always a tavern.
You know,
It's always a tavern. We
well,
just
well,
got.
well, to be fair, I was expecting those infected people you found there to be, you know,
And
I was expecting
golden rule of D&D: expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
Lol.
So what were you expecting us to do?
I was expecting that second group of infected people you found to wind up turning into another fight. Turns out I was wrong.
We handled
There
it.
are other alternatives to fighting.
Yeah, I know.
De-escalation training. It's British, is what we do.
It's pretty-
Yeah.
God damn it, Tom.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and
I think you're never going to run out of those witty charms of yours.
So again, it's just another British thing.
all right. Well, let's see.
But anyway, I would eventually walk in.
Yeah, okay, give me just
Disappointed.
give me just a second. I almost got this.
He's just about got it.
I just about got it.
Almost got it.
I only got 2 tracks for now, but I can grab more later.
Right. There you go.
There we go. All right.
That
So
works.
you step in, and yeah, it's pretty lively. The population is mostly Mithra, but you also see a couple of humans, a Tarofel, a Galka. The guy behind the counter is, another Elvon. There are a couple of waitresses kind of going around taking orders. Despite the misery outside, the atmosphere in here seems relatively jovial, and there are a couple of entertainers up on a stage playing music. There's a female dancer kind of doing some pretty impressive movements. You can say that.
Neophil walks up to the bar, giving the female dancer a passing glance.
All right. The man behind the counter looks up. Why, what can I do for you?
Santos following me?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Good. Cider, please. I don't know what my companion's having. I look at him.
Whiskey.
That'll be 20 gil for the whiskey, 10 gil for the cider.
I hand over the gill.
As do I.
All right, go ahead and subtract that from your inventories. He
Doing so.
He takes the gill with a smile and nod, comes back a minute later with mugs of cider and whiskey, passes them out. Don't think I've seen you two before. Who are you?
We, arrived, you could say, very recently. Not entirely of our own will.
I was wondering what those explosion noises were.
Seems an infected got in control of our ship, tried to run us into a whole bunch more. Fortunately, we lived to tell the tale.
That is some right rotten luck. You have my
How much
sympathies.
gil was that?
For the whiskey, it was 20.
Cool. Alright, sorry.
But of course, we are still getting our bearings. I was wondering what else is going on in this strange city of yours.
Well, there's not really much to tell, aside from food shortages starting to crop up. The plague wrecking shit down near the docks and the warehouses, one of the frickin' squares. The scrawny town, rat hunter's quarter, just about everything's fucked up over there.
So I take it rationing is in place for food.
Yes, very much. And it's difficult to send people out to hunt for more, as with winter on its way, a lot of animals are starting to go into hibernation, and they're damn near impossible to find at that point. And it's also becoming risky to try and travel through the gates. Sooner or later, and if we can't quell this infection soon enough, both gates are going to be claimed by the plague, and we won't be able to get out. The southern gate, the Snapper's Gate, has already been claimed. We can't use it anymore. Infected.
I see. Well, we have been hired by your lord to do what we can. I am a trained ranger. My friend here is also skilled in the ways of combat. And we've met infected, I'm sad to say.
Well, that is unfortunate. I take it they tried to attack you.
It did not end as they intended.
It really does. plague induces madness from all accounts. They probably didn't even know what the hell they were doing.
True.
He was scared.
We're all scared, friend.
It is like Rania always says, there is always a fool who tries to rush at someone who has a ranged weapon.
I have no idea who this Rania lady is, but those are damn good words of wisdom if I say so.
My sister.
Well, you've got a damn wise sister then.
She'd certainly like to think so.
Yes, well. Anything else I can get for you too, or... I do have
Unless Lantos wants it, or you have anything else on your mind?
Afraid not. Nothing I'd share with a stranger, no offense.
None taken. I have things I keep close to my chest as well.
Well, then, you have a good day. I need to get to the rest of my patrons. He shuffles a little further down along the bar.
Can I roll an awareness check to see if there's anything else of interest in this tavern?
Um,
Haven't been my cider.
Roll it.
Alright.
Then after that, I'm probably walking.
Alright.
14.
In looking around, I mean, nothing particularly catches your eye outright. Just seems like a bunch of people going about their day. Nothing out of the ordinary here. I mean, they're obviously, anxious and kind of jittery because, the infected zone's pretty close by to this tavern, but it's pretty well guarded, and apparently things have been kept out for a few weeks at this point, so they're all right.
I take a swig just out of my cider, look at Thanatos and just go, well, there's not much else to see here. Let's enjoy our drinks and head back, see what the others have found, if anything, and just prepare for what the Lord wishes us to do.
Although, if I must say, that dancer
Then I
sure
walk
caught
in.
your eye.
She just starts blushing and just clams up. Clams up and takes another swig of her cider.
Chuckles and just takes a swig.
They
there
are
you
very
two
nice
are.
hips. About this time, Alciar comes walking up.
So, are you two found anything yet?
Just embarrassment.
And a decent drink.
Well, at least you two got some nice drinks. As for me, I could use some water. I've been all over this place, and sadly, I haven't had much luck.
Seen much of Rocket since you departed?
Oh, she's not too far behind. Let's just say she's got quite a fan.
Try not to
Fair enough.
insert things. Paladin, try not to insert things. Let that be my job.
Got it?
I mean, as you're talking about that, we're actually going to go ahead and cut the scene and go to where Rocket is. So you said you were going to the Hanging Homes, yes?
Yes.
All right. Well, stepping into the region known as the Hanging Homes, you start to realize why they're called the Hanging Homes. It's quite an interesting region, largely because most of the homes are suspended baskets, so to speak.
Wow.
They're kind of held up by what look like reinforced vines that have been coiled up in a bunch of rope and stuff. And the baskets themselves are sort of looking like a cross between wooden supports and wicker hatching and stuff. It's very fascinating to look at. There's a lot of bamboo leaves and long grass blades kind of coiled around, giving it all a very natural look. You get the feeling this is one of the cheaper housing districts for people who want to be close to the palace but can't afford something more sustainable. At the same time, considering that, islands tend to get heavy winds, it seems pretty safe to assume that these baskets would do pretty well in the event of a storm. The ropes look sturdy, and the little sway to everything makes it pretty clear that they'd go along pretty well with the wind without being torn out at the roots, unless it was like a hurricane or something. And you see, there are a lot of people just a lot of Mithra mostly, just kind of talking to each other, sitting cross-legged in their homes, looking out at the slowly setting sun, or just walking around the streets doing their own business. You actually see there's one basket that's significantly larger than the rest in the immediate area of where you are, kind of at the entrance to the district. It's significantly larger, and there are a lot of people there eating, just sitting cross-legged and eating a lot of food, and there are a couple of other people kind of shuffling around. It looks like a suspended restaurant with the whole front of it sort of open to let in a cool breeze and let people look out at the world around them.
Okay, so I'm gonna investigate this.
All right. As you're kind of approaching the restaurant basket, make an awareness check.
Okay.
I like it you're using the Stronghold 2 music.
I don't know what that is. I just grabbed whatever I could find.
It's a great song.
11? All right. As you're kind of going around, you notice that you are drawing a lot of attention. A lot of people are kind of stopping their conversations and looking down at you in surprise and confusion, and a few people look like they're in awe at the sight. A few kids kind of go running across the street in front of you. One of them looks up, and the two just kind of stand there for a second. You pause and look back down at them. They're both Mithra, a boy and a girl. They're probably siblings when you think about it. And after a few moments of just kind of looking at you, they're just staring. What do you do?
I look down at them and smile. Hi!
Ah! The boy turns around and runs away, while the
Oh,
girl
dear.
the girl watches him go and giggles.
Get back here, you silly!
He doesn't listen and hides behind a house and sort of peeks out to look. The girl then looks back up at you and says,
You can talk?
Yeah, I can talk. I'm a chocobo. Well, I'm a cyborg chocobo.
the kid kind of looks you up and down and says,
That's so cool. Can I ride you?
Thank you. I don't know if it's safe to ride me, but
the kid gives you puppy dog eyes.
oh, fine.
All right. The kid claps her hands, yay! And quickly proceeds to, with, kitty swift agileness, climbs up your mechanical leg and then settles onto your back and just kind of sits upright, looks around.
Whoa, I'm so high up.
Yep.
Seeing his sister be all right, the boy slowly comes out from hiding. He's like,
Sis, are you sure that's safe?
the girl kind of leans down, holds out a hand.
Of course it's safe. Come on up.
Sorry I scared you.
The boy kind of looks over it and's like,
It's okay.
and then, with his sister's help, kind of hops up onto your back as well. And now you've got two kids on your back, and everyone's kind of watching this scene with a combination of either charm or concern. Like, charm being because, the kids are having fun, or concern because those kids are on a cyborg chocobo with black feathers and red eyes.
How about charmed concern?
Yeah. It's an equal measure of both from a bunch of people.
Oh boy.
You have really cool homes here.
Oh, yeah?
The kids kind of look around. The boy's like,
I don't think I've ever seen homes like this before.
the boy kind of looks like,
Oh, have you ever been in Mikatai?
Mikatai?
It's the name of our kingdom.
the girl proclaims quite happily.
Although everyone gets mad at me when I call it a kingdom.
The boy gives her a deadpan look.
It's 'cause it's not.
I don't think I have. I'm afraid. And I've done a bit of traveling. I don't remember ever being here.
Yeah, there's a dog barking down the street. Kind of. You're. Yeah, let's just work that into the game. Why not? There's a dog barking down the street.
Don't worry, it ain't me at least.
You're in a tavern with us.
So, all right. So the kids don't really have much more to add. Girl says,
I like our hanging homes. They're pretty.
The boy nods.
They are, but they're kind of itchy.
He scratches one of his shoulders.
Rough.
They're quite a sight to behold.
They're built to last in a storm. That's what Mommy says.
The girl explains.
I'm Trisha, by the way.
Nice to meet you. I'm Rocket.
Trisha gives this big sort of happy grin. I gotta make a note for Trisha in here, because now we have an NPC girl named Trisha. I'll fill out more details later. I'll go ahead and this is visible to everyone. All right. So we've got Trisha. She looks over at her brother and thumps him on the shoulder.
Introduce yourself, buddy.
He looks more than a little sheepish, but then nods and says,
I'm Jerish.
Nice to meet you.
all right. So they're just kind of hanging out on your back. What do you wish to do at this point?
Where do you all live?
Trisha kind of stands up on her hind legs, puts one of her, or stands up fully, from her resting position on your back, puts one of her hands on top of your head and points with the other,
Right there.
and she points at this house. I'll just mark it as-
Okay.
I'll just mark it as
Are your
secluded.
parents there, or are they out and about?
Mama's there.
Jerish says.
Dad's with the guard.
Ah, he works in the guard, does he?
Mm-hmm. Keeps out all the infected people.
I can give you a ride home if you want.
Hey, nod, and Jerish's like,
Okay.
and Trisha's like,
I'm sure Mama will love the sight. She's never seen a chocobo before, I don't think.
I just hope I don't scare her.
Jerish kind of shudders like,
You might.
Trisha thunks him on the head,
No, she won't. Rocket's nice, aren't ya?
kind of ruffles your feathers on top of your head a bit.
I try to be.
Rocket is good gal.
Yeah. All right, it kind of, you can tell she has experience with this. Playing DD. Kind of, so Rocket brings Trisha and Jerish up to their home, and inside you do indeed see a female Mithra. Looks like she's knitting some clothes together. Dressed in relatively standard clothing, has kind of an apron situation going. Looks up as you're approaching, stands up with a shocked look on her face, which slowly relaxes when she sees the big smiles on her kids' faces.
Oh, what have you found there, kids?
She asks.
Can we keep it? Can we keep it?
Thank you, Tom, for the suggestion. I will not be using it.
Ah.
Kind of a, you bring the kids a bit further forward, and Trisha then proceeds to hop from your back and up into the basket. Points at Rocket. Points at,
That's Rocket. She's real nice. She's a chocobo and she can talk.
Hi, ma'am.
The mom looked like she was about to, like admonish her child for making the claim that a chocobo could talk, and then just kind of looks at you in surprise when you speak before she could. Jerish makes a hop of his own and lands up in the basket.
Right. Well, hello, Rocket.
Lewin sort of kneels down.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
I'm
you.
Rocket.
Yes, Trisha said so.
Sorry if I startled you.
It's fine. It's hardly the worst I've had to deal with this past few weeks.
So I've heard.
She kind of looks back at her children and looks at you.
Well, what? You've got... I don't want to be rude or anything, but what's with all of the spare parts sticking out of you?
I'm a cyborg.
I
It was an experiment.
see.
She gives a slow nod and glances back at her kids, then back at you again.
Well, where'd you happen upon my kids?
They were down by the tavern. Well, they were down by the hanging homes.
Well, you're still in the hanging homes.
They weren't too far away. They were able to put me here.
And the dog's acting up down the street again. Right. She nods, says,
Oh, thanks for bringing them back. I was getting worried.
she ruffles Jerish's head.
This little rascal has a tendency to run away from everything.
Jerish pouts up at her.
I do not.
Trisha just giggles,
You pretty much do.
cheeks puffing up in agitation.
Well, I'm glad to be of help.
The woman nods.
Well, is there anything I can help you with, or,
Well, I'm just wondering how this whole thing started and who caused it.
You mean the plague?
Yes. By all intents and purposes, it doesn't seem natural.
The woman frowns and looks back to her kids.
Trisha, Jerish, could you two head further inside, please?
The two kids, pout but nod and head back inside. The woman looks back at you with a sigh and says,
I wish I knew, I really do. We all wish we knew how it started. We could stop it if we did. And you're right, it's not natural. If it were, then the Asuna spell would be all it would take, but it's not. Tam's stumped, apparently, so...
The asana spell?
Asuna, it's, I don't really know what it does, Tam explained it best during a delivery of news, I suppose, announcement to the public when he tried to treat the disease in the first few days. Normally, just about any disease that's natural, with only a few exceptions, can be cured with an application of that spell, or a remedy. But both of those failed in the face of this disease.
I wonder if this wasn't intentional then.
I don't know. I really wish I did. I have my kids to worry about, and my husband's out on the front lines every day.
She sort of gives her head a harsh shake, her face lighting up as if with realizations like,
Speaking of, I should go spend some time with my kids. They've been out all day. Thank you for bringing them back. I'll, farewell.
and she quickly shuffles off back into her home.
Farewell.
There's still a lot of people staring at you, but they seem a bit less apprehensive about you now since they just saw you having pleasant conversation with a woman.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much everyone's interactions real quick. So with that in mind, the sun is starting to set on Marasu.
Are we all at the...
Sure. Rocket, do you want to rejoin the others at the tavern, or?
Yeah.
All right. So everyone's in the Whiskers Corner. A missive is brought by not long after, signed by Laren Kane himself, giving you all one free night in the inn. Only one, though. You'll have to pay for anything after that. Otherwise, the place will go out of business when all this shit goes back into order, probably. And, so you get one free night in the Whiskers Corner. The bartender seems fine with that. Rooms are upstairs. He points at Rocket. I can't give her a room, though. Frankly, I shouldn't even be letting her inside.
Fair enough.
Can she just stay in one of our rooms?
Make a negotiation check.
Alright, that would just be usual. Dash roll 2d6. Only 5.
He shakes his head.
Someone else might need to.
He shakes his head. Sorry, but we just don't have what it would take to accommodate a chocobo. Between a lack of proper feed for the things and... no offense, he says. Quickly catching himself as he realizes you are quite sapient.
It's okay.
We just don't have anything to accommodate a chocobo in the same capacity that we would a human or a mithra or a galka. My apologies. She'll have to stay
I'm used to
outside.
that.
Yeah, she'll probably have to stay outside. There's a tarp that's kind of set up to protect a bunch of crates and stuff that we have out of the side. If you squeeze in, you might have enough room to stay out of any rainfall that might come and get shelter from the elements. If it gets too bad out there, if like a full-blown storm rolls in, then I might be willing to let you rest in the common corner for as long as the weather rages, but... well, that's the best I can offer, I'm afraid.
I understand.
Right. Any of the rest of you have anything to say?
I think doesn't know. Alistair is typing.
Yeah, sorry about that. I got it on the thing as I was using the mic.
Alright.
Well, then I suppose we should turn in for the night. I have a feeling the days ahead are going to be busy, and I, for one, want to solve this mess as soon as possible.
Indeed, before it spreads further.
If that's that, then I assume you're all heading to your rooms?
Mhm.
I am.
Alright. Well, you each get your own room. Except for Rocket, she has to sleep outside, sadly. But,
Sorry, Rocket.
It's okay.
well, the rooms themselves, you know, given that this is a really big inn and tavern and apparently quite expensive typically, the rooms are very nice. Like, this is like a 5-story hotel, so to speak, so like, the rooms are very nice, borderline luxurious, so as you fall onto the mattresses and rest your heads on your pillows, the stress and strain of the day slowly bleeds out of you. You let out contented sighs and slowly pass away into sleep as the sun sets on Marasu and the day comes to an end. And that is where we will end this session.
So ends day one.
So it is, pretty much, yeah. So, to be continued. Now, one thing I really quickly want to make clear to the rest of you before I actually end this video, just to avoid any confusion with the audience, we're not going to be doing experience points in this scenario, largely on the grounds that the level up rate is a bit too quick for my taste if we go by the standard rules. So instead, we're going to be going by a system of we'll have the party level up as we reach certain points in the campaign. Like, as we progress through each storyline and plot arc, I'll determine when good points are for leveling up and give you guys a level. How's that sound?
Yeah.
All right.
That's fine.
So no experience points.
Sounds great.
Reduces the amount of numbers the new people have to keep track of anyway. So yeah, first session done and over with. We can kind of chat amongst ourselves about it once I stop recording, which I still need to do. So with that,
Lots of fun this was.
indeed. So give me just a second here. So yeah, there we go. First session complete.
Is that
It
recording
took a while, but we did it.
Recording.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been trying to set up this game for a while now, but we finally got it. And yeah. So
if you do the thumbnail for these videos, like I can just add like the corners for each one. Can you have Rocket in the center? Because I think Rocket's our mascot now.
Okay.
I don't mind that.
I
I mean, I'm still very fascinated with Rocket.
I don't know. We'll see. For now, though, it is time to end the recording. So thank you all very much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. May the crystals
Sure.
light your way.
Goodbye, everybody.
Cheerio.
Play.